Li Muyuan gazed at Yang Yi for a short while, and then he turned around and walked away. Yang Yi suddenly spoke. "Did I say that you can leave?" The atmosphere here instantly became tense when they heard Yang Yi. Li Muyuan stopped moving while the students who came with him earlier had immediately gone over to his side, and they revealed vigilant expressions. Zinan and Xiao Yuan's expressions changed slightly. They'd experienced Yang Ye's temper before this, and they knew that if he lost his temper, then even Xiao Bieli wouldn't be able to stop him. Zinan hesitated for a moment, and she was just about to speak when Yang Yi looked at her. "If others respect me, then I would respect them. If others don't respect me, then I would absolutely not respect them. Besides that, I hate people who play tricks behind others' backs." Yang Yi gazed at Li Muyuan and continued, "Do you think I wouldn't dare to kill you?" Li Muyuan said, "I was just planning for the worst-case scenario." "Is that so?" Yang Yi said, "All right. Regardless of what your intentions were, I can't stand the sight of you right now, and I don't want to take you along with me anymore. So, will you fuck off yourself, or should I make you?" Everyone here was shocked upon hearing this. After all, forcing Li Muyuan to leave was no different than making him give his life away. However, many didn't choose to step forward right now. Actually, many of them didn't really like Li Muyuan's actions. After all, anyone wouldn't be pleased when someone acted like that. Li Muyuan's expression changed abruptly when he heard Yang Yi, because he hadn't expected that Yang Yi would actually force him to leave. How could he possibly return to the academy with his strength? Yet now, where could he go if not for the academy? Where would he dare to go? He couldn't go anywhere, and he didn't dare to go anywhere else as well, unless he stayed in hiding forever. After all, the Mo clan and Thousand Crane Sect were in a superior position right now, so would any power allow him to stay? Would any power dare to let him stay? Li Muyuan spoke gloomily. "Yang Yi, must you go to such extents?" Yang Yi laughed coldly. "I've already shown mercy for old man Zhao's sake. If it was up to me, then I would end you right now. So, seize the moment before I change my mind and fuck off right now. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be able to do that." Yang Yi didn't want to save an ungrateful bastard. Based on Li Muyuan's previous actions, Yang Yi knew that it would absolutely not be the last time. Once he wasn't here, Li Muyuan would definitely play some tricks. He wasn't interested in dealing with Li Muyuan's schemes, so he just made Li Muyuan leave instead. He didn't want to keep someone who was hostile towards him and intended to harm him on his cloud shuttle. Moreover, he refused to save such a person. After all, Yang Yi wasn't a kind person. Repay enmity with kindness? No. He liked to repay enmity with blood. Yang Yi. We're all on the same side. There's no need to do this. Meanwhile, Qiu Yuan spoke abruptly. "I realize that Li Muyuan's actions were wrong, and I'll make him apologize to you. All right? We're all students of the academy, and I'm sure that Dean Xiao wouldn't want to see us fighting and killing each other." Zinan spoke up as well. "Qiu Yuan is right. Our academy is in a crisis right now, so we should stay united as one and not enter into conflict with each other. Muyuan apologized to Yang Yi and the matter will end there. Besides that, if you act like that again, then not to mention Yang Yi, Zinan will be the first to deal with you. Muyuan, just apologize. We're all on the same side. There's no need for it to be like this." Exactly. Our current enemies are the Mo clan, Thousand Crane Sect, and the Law faction. Fighting amongst ourselves will only benefit those bastards. Just apologize and this incident will be over. Li Muyuan, don't think that it's unjust because it's your own fault. Yang Yi was keeping formidable enemies at bay for us, yet you were playing tricks behind his back. Everyone witnessed all of it, and we know that you are indeed in the wrong. Now just apologize. I believe that senior brother Yang Yi will definitely give you a chance. Li Muyuan glanced at the others and said, "Apologize? Why should I? Didn't I do all of that for all of you? Moreover, did I even do anything wrong? If Yang Yi died and we continued at such a slow speed, then what would we do if our enemies catch up? Was it wrong say that we should go first?" Muyuan. Qiu Yuan spoke in a low voice. "Just apologize and this matter will be over. Understand? I refuse. Li Muwen laughed coldly and gazed at Yang Yi. Yang Yi, you're stronger than me, so I can't do anything if you want to make me leave. Don't worry, I'm not a shameless person, so I'll leave right now. Stop the cloud shuttle. I'll leave right now. I'll go with you. I'll go with you as well. It didn't take long for those students who'd been by Li Muyuan's side since the beginning to step forward and proclaim their intention to go with him. Yang Ye's voice resounded. Stop the cloud shuttle. The cloud shuttle was still flying. Yang Yi glanced at the others and said, What's this? Qiu Yuan spoke solemnly. There's no need to go to such extents. Yang Yi walked over to Qiu Yuan and said, Based on what you said, I, Yang Yi, should beg him to stay? And I should beg him to let me protect him? Is that it? Qiu Yuan replied, He was wrong, but it doesn't warrant death. Yang Yi gazed at Qiu Yuan for a short while, and then he glanced at the others and said, Do all of you think that I have to rescue you? Or do you think that White Deer Academy wouldn't have a future without all of you? Their expressions changed drastically upon hearing this. What's he trying to say? Shock instantly appeared in their eyes when they thought of a certain possibility. Zinan's eyes were filled with shock as well. Yang Yi, you. Yang Yi glanced at them and said, I, Yang Yi, won't be staying in the academy, nor will I become its dean. So, the rules of the academy can't bind me. As for your impression of me, it isn't important at all. The only reason I'm standing here right now is Dean Xiao, and the only reason I've chosen to fight alongside the academy is because of him. It isn't because of all of you, and it isn't because of White Deer Academy as well. So, all of you better know your place. Since you're all on my cloud shuttle now, then I hope that you'll act according to the rules I set. Otherwise, you can fuck off. Yang Yi suddenly stomped his foot down. Bang! The entire cloud shuttle shook violently. Yang Yi said, Now stop the cloud shuttle. Don't make me say it a second time. The cloud shuttle came to a stop 2 breaths of time later. Yang Yi glanced at everyone here and said, If you can't stand the sight of me or don't like what I'm doing, then you can leave with him. Don't worry, I will absolutely not stop you. As for complaining to Dean Xiao, you can do as you please. He didn't want to waste time with the students. After all, he had more important matters to attend to. This time, all of them weren't just shocked, they were terrified. At this point, they finally understood that their fate didn't matter to Yang Yi. Yang Yi hadn't come here for them, and he'd merely come because he owed Dean Xiao. Yet they'd taken his actions to be a matter of course, and some even felt that Yang Yi owed them. Li Muyuan glanced coldly at Yang Yi, and then he leaped off the cloud shuttle. At the same time, the others behind him hesitated for a moment before leaping off as well. Yang Yi, what goes around comes around. I, Li Muyuan, will remember this humiliation. You better pray that you don't encounter any misfortune in the future. Otherwise, I'll definitely repay this humiliation 100-fold. Li Muyuan's voice resounded from the sky. How could he be willing to leave without leaving a few threats behind? Yang Yi, who was walking towards his room, had suddenly stopped moving, and then he turned around and looked up at the sky. What goes around comes around? Let me see how you'll do that without a head. As soon as he finished speaking, Yang Yi drew his sword and swung it. A ray of sword energy shot through the sky and vanished into the horizon. A few seconds passed before Li Muyuan's shrill cry resounded, and it was accompanied by the shocked and horrified cries of those students who'd left with him. Everyone here couldn't help but take a step back when they witnessed this scene, and their gazes at Yang Yi were filled with shock and extreme fear. Yang Yi ignored them and walked to his room. At the same time, his voice resounded from within his room. Turn around and head to Thousand Crane Dimension. Everyone here was still in a state of shock. He really dares to kill us. He wasn't joking. A short while passed before Qiu Yuan said, I underestimated how ruthless he is. Muyuan underestimated his ruthlessness as well. Zinan replied, All of us did. Quite a long moment of silence ensued before Qiu Yuan spoke again. He said to turn around and head towards Thousand Crane Dimension. Go ask him what he intends to do. Zinan nodded, and then she walked towards Yang Ye's room. In the room, Yang Yi sat cross-legged on the ground while a violet crystal was ceaselessly emanating spirit energy within him. He'd wasted quite a bit of profound energy during the battle with that old geezer just now, and he had to replenish it. Meanwhile, Zinan walked into his room, and she sat cross-legged in front of him. You said to head to Thousand Crane Dimension. What do you intend to do? Yang Yi opened his eyes and gazed at her. Do you think we'll be able to return to the academy like this? Why not? Zinan was puzzled. It's completely possible with this Imperial Cloud Shuttle. Yang Yi shook his head. There are 5 quasi-emperors outside White Deer City. That quasi-emperor and those experts from before have definitely rushed back to White Deer City by now. We won't be able to enter the city if we head back right now. It's absolutely possible such a force to obliterate us in an instant. Zinan was still puzzled. What does that have to do with going to the Thousand Crane Dimension? Yang Yi replied with a question. What do you think? Zinan thought for a moment, and then her eyes suddenly opened wide as she gazed at him with shock. You intend to launch a surprise attack against the Thousand Crane Sect. Zinan was no fool, so how could she be unable to understand what Yang Yi meant? White Deer City was surrounded, and it was practically impossible to return there right now. Yet Yang Yi had chosen to travel to the Thousand Crane Sect. Obviously, he wasn't there to pay them a friendly visit. He intended to launch a surprise attack against the Thousand Crane Sect. Zinan couldn't help but shudder when she thought up to this point. After all, it was a diamond rank power. Has he really gone mad? Yang Yi grinned when he saw the expression on her face. What? Are you afraid? Zinan nodded without hesitation. Yang Yi said, just think about it. White Deer City is in a much more dangerous situation than ours, because the Mo clan, the Thousand Crane Sect, and the Law faction might attack the city at any moment. Their joint forces are many times stronger than our academy. Even if we have the grand formation of the city, how long do you think we'll be able to persist for? Zinan remained silent. Yang Yi added, most importantly, even if we're able to return to the academy, we won't be of much help to the academy, because the fight is between the top experts of each side right now. However, we can do many things while we're outside of the city. Zinan spoke solemnly. We're too weak. The Thousand Crane Sect isn't strong either. Yang Yi continued. Their only quasi-emperor is at White Deer City, and many of its high-rank saints are outside the city as well. So, according to my estimations, there are very few high-rank saints left in their sect, and there shouldn't be more than 20 there. Of course, we aren't heading there to destroy their sect. We don't have the strength to do that, nor do we have the time. Our mission is to kill as many as we can, cause them to fall into chaos, and improve the morale of our academy's forces. Zinan remained silent for a long time before she said, your plan is very crazy and dangerous. We're already in extreme danger. Yang Yi continued, is it not dangerous to be pursued and attacked by the Mo clan, Thousand Crane Sect, and Law faction? Zinan, you must realize the situation you're in right now. To be frank, perhaps we might die a moment later. Zinan took a deep breath and said, I'll do as you say. Yang Yi nodded slightly. Let's go. As soon as he finished speaking, Yang Yi stood up and walked towards the door while Zinan followed behind him. There were over 2,000 students standing before Yang Yi. There were high-rank saints, ordinary saints, half-saints, and even some monarch realm cultivators amongst them. Yang Yi glanced at them and said, our current target is the Thousand Crane Sect. Yes, we're going to launch a surprise attack against them. Do all of you dare to do so? A surprise attack against the Thousand Crane Sect. Clamorous noise resounded throughout the surroundings. It was definitely unimaginable for all of them. After all, they were just students and most of them were injured. So, wasn't launching a surprise attack against the Thousand Crane Sect no different than courting death? While the Thousand Crane Sect wasn't as powerful as the Mo clan, it was still a diamond rank power. Has he gone mad? Yang Yi said, presently, there are at least 5 quasi-emperors outside White Deer City. Will we be able to enter the city if we head back now? We wouldn't. Even if we can enter the city, what can we do? Nothing. At the very most, we can act as cannon fodder when the battle begins. However, we can do many things while we remain outside the city. For example, we can launch a surprise attack against the Thousand Crane Sect. Meanwhile, one of the students said, "But there are too few of us, and we're too weak as well." Xianxia gazed at that student and said, "We aren't going there to set up an arena and challenge them to single combat. We're going there to launch a surprise attack. So, having fewer people is advantageous instead. As for the problem you raised about your strengths, all of you actually aren't too weak. All of you just lack confidence. That day, I slaughtered my way through the Thousand Crane Sect by myself. Yet now we have a group. A group." Xianxia glanced at them and continued, "Earlier, all of you were pursued like dogs. Don't you want to take revenge?" Their expressions immediately became unsightly when they heard the last few words Xianxia spoke. It had undoubtedly struck at a sore point of theirs. During that period of being hunted, it was definitely extremely aggrieving to all of them. After all, as students of White Deer Academy, when had they ever been pursued like dogs? Meanwhile, Xianxia added, "If all of you really don't dare to do so, then I won't force all of you. However, I'll still go myself." Zinan was the first to make her stand clear at this moment. "I'll go with you." Qiu Yuan was the second. "I'll go as well." As soon as they made their stands clear, many others instantly stopped hesitating. "Let's launch a surprise attack against them. Fuck them. There are no cowards in my White Deer Academy. Count me in. Even if I die, I'll bury a few of their disciples with me. Attack the Thousand Crane Sect. Kill." Xianxia nodded slightly. Even though White Deer Academy was in a critical situation, it still had hope, because its students were still unyielding. Xianxia gazed at Zinan and said, "How far are we from the Thousand Crane Sect?" Zinan replied, 2 hours. Xianxia nodded, and then he flicked his finger. A violet crystal instantly appeared before every single one of them. "Consume it and recover." All of them were delighted when they saw the violet crystal. After all, it was a treasure that would allow them to swiftly recover their profound energy. Moreover, a violet crystal's effects could last them 4 hours at the very least. So, it was definitely capable of saving their lives in the upcoming battle in the Thousand Crane Sect. So, they immediately expressed their gratitude to Xianxia. Xianxia gazed at Zinan and said, "Separate out the students at the Half-Saint Realm and above. They will be attacking the Thousand Crane Sect with us. As for those below the Half-Saint Realm, don't leave them behind. Give them another mission, and it's to plunder as much as they can from the Thousand Crane Sect." Zinan was astounded. "Plunder?" Xianxia replied, "Of course. The Thousand Crane Sect is a diamond rank sect at any rate, so it should have quite a large number of treasures. Since we're attacking it, then how can we return empty-handed?" Zinan gazed at Xianxia for a short while before she nodded. "Remember that you'll only have 100 breaths of time." Xianxia gazed at them and said, "We only have 100 breaths of time, and then everyone must immediately return to the cloud shuttle." Zinan was puzzled. "Why?" Meanwhile, Qiu Yuan spoke. "Because the Thousand Crane Sect would notify its experts as soon as we attack, and it takes around 100 breaths of time for a quasi-emperor to rush back. So, we must leave before the experts of the Thousand Crane Sect and Mo clan arrive. Otherwise, many of us will die. It's even the extent that all of us will be buried there." Zinan glanced at Qiu Yuan and nodded. "I understand." Xianxia didn't speak another word. He just turned around and looked up at the sky while a trace of worry could be seen in his eyes. Even though he possessed 100 sword servants at the high-rank Saint Realm and 1 at the Quasi-Emperor Realm, such forces were utterly insufficient before the Thousand Crane Sect, Mo clan, and Law faction, especially the Mo clan. Even until now, the Mo clan had only revealed a small portion of its strength. Besides the Mo clan, there was also Lu Yuanhao who was watching from the shadows. Regardless of whether it was White Deer Academy or Xianxia, they were in very bad situations. Meanwhile, Zinan suddenly walked over to Xianxia and asked softly, "What are you thinking about?" Xianxia replied with a question. "You've already finished what I tasked you to do?" She pointed at Qiu Yuan. "He's doing it. He's much better at it than I am." Xianxia glanced at Qiu Yuan and said, Indeed, Zenan said abruptly. Actually, I was thinking about something. What would happen if our White Deer Academy didn't have you? Xianxia replied. It would still be White Deer Academy even without me. Zenan shook her head slightly. We would have been driven away by the Law faction if it wasn't for you. At that time, the Law faction wouldn't act like we have, and it would act against us. So we would definitely suffer horrifying consequences. Yet now, all of us here might die if it wasn't for you. Of course, you're partially to blame for the Mo clan and Thousand Crane Sect's attack on our academy. However, in overall, your merits outweigh your faults. Xianxia turned around to gaze at Zenan. If I were to try and join the martial sect or evil faction, do you think they would take me in? Do you think they would protect me? Zenan remained silent for a long time before she said, They will. Xianxia's natural talent and strength couldn't definitely be ranked on the martial rankings, and he would be in the top 20 at the very least. Any power wouldn't be able to refuse such a genius. Xianxia said, I wasn't trying to hint at anything when I said all of that. I just want to tell you that if the Academy doesn't betray me, then I will absolutely not betray the Academy. I don't betray those who remain loyal to me. That's my principle in life. We're on the same side now. So, I won't abandon all of you if all of you don't play tricks with me. Zenan glanced at him and said, I understand. Meanwhile, Qiu Yuan walked over and said, There are 1120 of us at the Half-Saint Realm or above, and the rest are below the Half-Saint Realm. The forces at the Half-Saint Realm and above will come with us and obey your orders. As for the rest, I've ordered them to seize the opportunity presented by the chaos to plunder the Technique Pavilion, Treasure Pavilion, Treasury, and other places within the Thousand Crane Sect. In short, they'll head to every single place that might hold treasures. However, there might be experts guarding those places. Xianxia waved his right hand, and then 50 high-rank saints appeared here. These will protect them. Their expressions changed when they saw those 50 puppets at the high rank of the Saint Realm. They hadn't expected that Xianxia actually possessed so many puppets, and all of them were high-rank saints. Meanwhile, Qiu Yuan said, They should be able to complete their missions smoothly with the protection of these puppets. However, if I'm not wrong, the Thousand Crane Sect has a defensive formation surrounding it right now, and even if we're able to break through it, there'll be all sorts of offensive formations within the sect. All of that, Xianxia said, I'll deal with them. Qiu Yuan stated, One final question. Who will guard the cloud shuttle? Xianxia replied, Don't worry. I've made arrangements for that. Qiu Yuan took a deep breath and said, I have no further questions. Xianxia glanced at Qiu Yuan. You considered everything thoroughly. Not bad indeed. You'll be in charge of commanding our forces later. Another 50 puppets at the high-rank Saint Realm will be under your command as well. Try your best to minimize our losses. As for the top experts of the Thousand Crane Sect, let me deal with them. Qiu Yuan replied, I won't let you down. Xianxia nodded, and then he turned around and looked up at the sky. An hour later, they arrived at Thousand Crane Dimension. Xianxia's group was only detected after they entered Thousand Crane Dimension and arrived before Thousand Crane City. The Thousand Crane Sect was about to activate the defensive formation around the city. Unfortunately, it was too late. A pillar of blood shot up into the sky, and then the formation which restricted flight was blasted into pieces. A debt of blood must be repaid with blood, someone shouted, and then the students of White Deer Academy howled in unison. Countless pillars of light shot through the sky while led by a pillar of blood-red light, and they shot towards the Thousand Crane Sect. Because it was a surprise attack, Xianxia's group entered Thousand Crane Dimension without a hitch, and they passed through the city to arrive at the Thousand Crane Sect. However, a huge barrier of light enveloped the Thousand Crane Sect when they were about to charge into it. At the same time, countless experts of the Thousand Crane Sect shot over from all directions, and it didn't take long for a few tens of thousands to be gathered within the Thousand Crane Sect. It's Xianxia! Countless disciples cried out involuntarily when they saw the blood-red figure outside the barrier of light. Xianxia was naturally not an unfamiliar face to them. After all, Xianxia had killed their vice sect master and carried out a slaughter in their sect. The blood scene from that day was absolutely unforgettable to many disciples. As soon as they saw Yang Yi, their countenances had immediately turned pale, especially when they saw a huge group standing behind Yang Yi. Moreover, there were over 50 high-rank saints in that group. However, they were part of a diamond rank power at any rate, so it wasn't to the extent of instilling terror within them. Get into formation. Activate all the formations. Notify the sect master. A furious howl resounded through the 1,000-crane sect, and then its disciples instantly recovered their calm and composure before acting in an orderly manner. A beautiful middle-aged woman flashed into the sky, and she gazed at Yang Yi and said, "Yang Yi, what are you doing here?" At this moment, she naturally had to buy time until Feng Qingyu got back. "Move aside." Yang Ye's voice resounded while the disciples of the 1,000-crane sect were getting into formation. Yang Yi paid no attention to the middle-aged woman. He just took Heaven's gravestone in both hands, stomped his right foot against the space beneath him, and then transformed into a ray of blood-red light that collided with the barrier of light. Bang! The entire barrier of light shook violently, and rumbling resounded through the sky while countless arm-thick cracks appeared on it. The expressions of the middle-aged woman and all the other disciples of the 1,000-crane sect changed drastically at the sight of this scene. "Attack!" The middle-aged woman hurriedly shouted with fury. "Attack!" Countless disciples howled furiously from below. In an instant, countless beams of blue light shot up into the air. The beams of blue light instantly formed a huge pillar of blue light in midair, and then it slammed towards Yang Yi, who still remained outside the barrier of light. "Attack!" Qiu Yuan's voice resounded from outside the barrier of light. As soon as Qiu Yuan gave the order, all the students of White Deer Academy attacked in unison. Countless beams of light covered the heavens and the earth as they shot towards the blue pillar of light. Bang! 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 A string of deafening explosions resounded through the sky. Qiu Yuan and the others were naturally no match for the joint forces of tens of thousands from the 1,000-crane sect. So, their attacks merely obstructed the pillar of blue light for a moment. But it was enough for Yang Yi. "Break!" Yang Ye's roar of fury resounded through the sky. Yang Yi held Heaven's gravestone with both hands as he pressed it against the barrier of light and twisted it. The laws of decay sprayed out from his sword, and coupled with the effects of his full strength, a huge hole was instantly blasted open in the barrier of light. Even though it wasn't really huge, it was sufficient for Yang Ye's group. "Kill!" As soon as he finished speaking, Yang Yi transformed into a ray of blood-red light that charged into the 1,000-crane sect. The middle-aged woman's pupils constricted, but she reacted quickly and immediately roared with fury. "Get into formation and attack! Activate all the offensive formations and kill them!" Hiss! A ray of blood-red light flashed through the middle-aged woman's throat, and then her head flew up into the air. "Kill!" Qiu Yuan and the others followed closely behind Yang Yi. Meanwhile, countless beams of blue light suddenly surged out from all over the 1,000-crane sect, and they covered the sky as they shot towards Yang Ye's group. "Qiu Yuan, act according to the plan." As soon as Yang Yi finished speaking, he swung Heaven's gravestone swiftly, and then countless rays of blood-red sword energy shot towards the surroundings. Every single ray of sword energy collided with a beam of blue light, so those beams of blue light weren't able to cause any harm to Yang Yi and the others. Meanwhile, Qiu Yuan suddenly gazed at one of the students and said, "Yuan Ming, make it quick! Come with me!" Yuan Ming shot into the 1,000-crane sect. Over 1,000 students followed behind him, and there were sword servants around them as well. Any obstruction they encountered would be mercilessly eliminated by those sword servants. So, Yuan Ming's group advanced smoothly, and it didn't take long for them to vanish into the distance. At this moment, an intense battle was going on here. The students of White Deer Academy were outnumbered, and their overall strength was weaker than the forces of the 1,000-crane sect. However, they had Yang Yi, so it was the 1,000-crane sect which was at a disadvantage, because just Yang Yi alone was capable of resisting all the formations of the 1,000-crane sect, and he was even ceaselessly slaughtering the high-rank saints of the 1,000-crane sect. Under such circumstances, it was practically a slaughter. The shrill cries of countless disciples from the Thousand Cranes sect were resounding incessantly. However, none of them fled. More and more disciples were rushing over from all directions, and even many experts within Thousand Crane City had rushed over. As more and more disciples rushed over, the forces from White Deer Academy gradually lost the advantage they had and were disadvantaged instead. Meanwhile, Xianxia's eyes narrowed slightly. He pondered deeply for a moment, and then he issued a command in his heart. One of his sword servants vanished on the spot, and it didn't take long for a huge explosion to resound from the back of the Thousand Cranes sect. After that, countless sounds of loud laughter resounded from there. Thousand Darkness Prison. The expressions of some elders from the Thousand Crane sect had changed drastically, because they realized that Xianxia had destroyed the Thousand Darkness Prison. Many enemies of the Thousand Crane sect were imprisoned there, but most of the prisoners there were actually members of the Thousand Crane sect itself. They definitely held immense resentment towards the Thousand Crane sect because it was practically impossible to escape once one was imprisoned there. Sure enough, it didn't take long for chaos to arise at the rear of the Thousand Crane sect. However, the high-rank saints of the Thousand Crane sect paid no attention to those prisoners, because Xianxia was much more terrifying than them. After all, even if they started a slaughter, how many could they kill? But if no one kept Xianxia busy, then Xianxia could annihilate all the disciples of the Thousand Crane sect. At this moment, the Thousand Crane sect was ready to stop at nothing in order to deal with Xianxia and the students of White Deer Academy. They were ceaselessly activating all sorts of offensive formations. Every single activation of these formations consumed a huge number of violet crystals. However, they had no choice but to do so right now, because if they couldn't keep Xianxia busy, then the ordinary disciples of the Thousand Crane sect would be utterly incapable of even resisting a single swing of Xianxia's sword. But even then, it was quite difficult to keep Xianxia busy. Meanwhile, Xianxia's voice resounded, "Everyone come close to me." The students of White Deer Academy didn't hesitate to do as they were told. Even though some had tried to stop them, those experts were eliminated by Xianxia. There was practically no one here who could resist a single swing of Xianxia's sword. So, it didn't take long for the students of White Deer Academy to arrive around Xianxia. Meanwhile, they were surrounded by disciples of the Thousand Crane sect. At this moment, the minds of those disciples were filled with the desire to kill, and they were utterly fearless. They were part of a diamond rank power in the end, so they couldn't be compared to the members of ordinary powers. Xianxia glanced at the surroundings. At this moment, they were practically surrounded, and the disciples and guards of the Thousand Crane sect were still rushing over incessantly from the city. "We can't stay any longer." Xianxia gazed at Xiao Yuan and said, "Order everyone to get back here. We're going back to the cloud shuttle." Xiao Yuan didn't dare hesitate, and immediately sent a voice transmission to those students who were tasked with plundering the Thousand Crane sect. In next to no time, those students rushed back here while escorted by Xianxia's sword servants. "Don't let them escape. Stop them. The sect master will be here in a few dozen breaths of time at most." One of the elders immediately roared upon noticing Xianxia's intent to flee. If they couldn't kill Xianxia, then the Thousand Crane sect would definitely become the laughingstock of the entire Central Divine Prefecture. At that time, every single member of the Thousand Crane sect wouldn't be able to hold their heads up high before the members of other diamond rank powers. The disciples of the Thousand Crane sect immediately pounced at Xianxia's group like madmen. The students of White Deer Academy immediately revealed extremely solemn expressions on their faces before the Thousand Crane sect's fearless attempt to stop them from escaping. Suddenly, Xianxia waved his right hand, and then another 50 sword servants at the high rank of the Saint Realm appeared here. The faces of the experts from the Thousand Crane sect changed drastically at the sight of those sword servants. However, Xianxia paid no attention to the experts of the Thousand Crane sect, and he just waved his right hand and commanded, "Stay close and kill our way out with me." As soon as he finished speaking, Xianxia drew his sword and swung it. A ray of blood-red sword energy shot forward, and over 100 disciples of the Thousand Crane sect who were in his path were instantly slashed into two. "Kill!" Xianxia's figure shot towards the distance, and the students behind him immediately followed him. After 50 more high-rank saints appeared here, the students of the Thousand Crane Sect were powerless to stop Xianxia's group, and they could only watch helplessly as Xianxia's group vanished into the horizon. Not even 5 breaths of time had passed after Xianxia's group left when Feng Qingyu and Emotion appeared in the Thousand Crane Sect. Feng Qingyu's face was instantly covered in gloominess when she saw the corpses that covered the Thousand Crane Sect. Yang Yi. Feng Qingyu's voice was like the roar of a wild beast as it resounded throughout Thousand Crane Dimension. The news about the attack on the Thousand Crane Sect swept through the Central Divine Prefecture like wildfire. The entire Central Divine Prefecture was in an uproar. Even though the Thousand Crane Sect had fallen into a decline, it was still a diamond-rank power. It still had its resources and reserves. Most importantly, Yang Yi was just a half-saint, and it wasn't exaggerated to call the students of White Deer Academy which he led into battle as a bunch of weak and injured experts. But it was exactly such a force that had attacked the Thousand Crane Sect. Moreover, they'd killed more than 10,000 disciples of the Thousand Crane Sect. Besides that, the Treasure Pavilion, Technique Pavilion, Herb Pavilion, and many other valuables of the Thousand Crane Sect had been practically completely plundered. Most importantly, they'd swaggered off in the end. This battle made the entire Central Divine Prefecture remember a name, and it was Yang Yi, because Yang Yi turned blood red every time he killed, wielded a sword of slaughter, and his actions were no different than madness in the eyes of others. Many busybodies in the Central Divine Prefecture had given Yang Yi a nickname, the Mad Swordsman. No matter what, this battle forced the world to reconsider its view of White Deer Academy. Before this, everyone felt that White Deer Academy's fate was predetermined. After all, it was impossible for White Deer Academy to turn the situation around when facing the joint forces of the Mo clan, Thousand Crane Sect, and the Law faction. Yet now, they had no choice but to reconsider it for no other reason than because White Deer Academy had the Mad Swordsman, Yang Yi. Quasi-emperors were at the apex of the Radiant Dimension. However, they weren't the strongest. The true strongest experts in the Radiant Dimension were those monstrous geniuses on the martial rankings. Perhaps some of those monstrous geniuses on the martial rankings were just half-saints like Yang Yi, but their strengths were sufficient to kill quasi-emperors. Moreover, some like the top 10 could even kill emperors. In short, Yang Ye's existence made everyone feel that White Deer Academy might still have a chance. White Deer Dimension. At this moment, countless were cheering and seething with excitement, because even the residents of White Deer Dimension had heard about Yang Ye's surprise attack on the Thousand Crane Sect. Yang Yi, Zinan, and the others did well. Really well. This is the best I've felt in the last few months. Come on. Let's go have a few drinks. They killed around 10,000 experts of the Thousand Crane Sect and took countless treasures. Ha ha ha. Awesome. Truly awesome. I really wish I could have attacked the Thousand Crane Sect with them. I truly wish I could. Ah! What are you shouting for? You'll have plenty of chances in the future. I believe that day will definitely arrive very soon. Attacking the Thousand Crane Sect is nothing. I'm going to attack the Mo clan and annihilate that so-called ancient clan. I'll make them realize that while our academy has split apart, it isn't something that just anyone can bully. Attack the Thousand Crane Sect. Attack the Mo clan. Hall of Nobility. There were only 3 people within the hall. Xiao Bieli, Xiao Ling, and Su Shurha. That kid really is a madman, Su Shurha denounced. He's acting as he pleases with the lives of our students. Even though he was denouncing Yang Yi, there was a smile on his face, and he didn't sound like he was angry either. Conversely, it sounded like he was praising Yang Yi. Xiao Ling glanced at Su Shurha and smiled. Even though it was really too crazy, I have to admit that this battle made everyone in the Central Divine Prefecture look upon our academy in a different light. Moreover, it raised our morale as well. Just listen to those little fellows in the city. Every single one of them is shouting about attacking the Mo clan and Thousand Crane Sect. Xiao Bieli glanced at Xiao Ling and Su Shurha, and then he laughed bitterly. That kid really doesn't know how to put anyone at ease. Forget it. Not to mention the outside world, I might not even be able to control him if he was here. He can just do as he pleases. With how ruthless and shameless that kid is, He'll definitely not suffer any losses. Xiao Ling smiled, and then she spoke seriously. We must take greater precautions because the Mo clan, Thousand Crane Sect, and the Law faction might just attack us right away. Xiao Bieli nodded. Give the order for the entire city to continue staying on guard. Besides that, send that kid a voice transmission. Tell him and those other kids to be careful. Su Shurha nodded, and then he left the hall. The Mad Swordsman. Ha ha ha. That name really does suit that kid. On the Imperial Cloud Shuttle. After they left the Thousand Crane Sect, Yang Yi immediately commanded the Cloud Shuttle to travel at full speed. Even a quasi-emperor wouldn't be able to catch up to them with ease right now. Qiu Yuan spoke in a low voice. We lost 221 students at the Half-Saint Realm or above. As for students below the Half-Saint Realm, we only lost 32 because they didn't participate in the battle. Silence filled the area. Even though their losses were very small, those fallen students were their friends, and some were even their loved ones. Meanwhile, Qiu Yuan added, in the end, making the Thousand Crane Sect pay such a horrible price while we paid such a small price is a win for us. Yang Yi gazed at Qiu Yuan and said, note down the names of the fallen. White Deer Academy will take care of their families and clans in the future. Qiu Yuan nodded. Yang Yi said, tell me about our gains. Qiu Yuan replied, according to my initial estimations, the techniques, treasures, ores, herbs, and various other items we obtained are worth at least 50,000 violet crystals. 50,000 violet crystals. Everyone here instantly gasped upon hearing Qiu Yuan. 50,000 violet crystals. How much was that? It could be said that all of them couldn't gather that many violet crystals even if they worked for their entire lifetimes. Even White Deer Academy would find it impossible to produce 50,000 violet crystals right now. So, the blood of everyone here started to boil. Meanwhile, Qiu Yuan laughed bitterly. Even though that's the lowest price for all of it, selling all of it is still a problem. I'll do that, said Yang Yi. He knew by Xianxia, based on Cloud Merchant Group's ability, it shouldn't be a problem for them to buy all of it. Qiu Yuan gazed at Yang Yi. You possess the contacts to sell them? Yang Yi nodded and said, display all the treasures to everyone first. If anyone needs anything or there are treasures that suit them, then they can buy it. Remember, they have to buy it. Once everything is sold, the cost will be removed from the violet crystals that everyone should get. As for the price, you can decide that, Qiu Yuan. Qiu Yuan was astounded. You're saying that you intend to share the violet crystals with everyone? The others gazed at Yang Yi with astonishment as well. Yang Yi replied with a question. What else? Qiu Yuan was stunned, and then he said, But all of this should actually be yours, because we would have died if it wasn't for you, and we wouldn't have been able to escape with our lives without your help. Yang Yi waved his hand and said, I understand what you're trying to say. What I want to say is that we're all on the same boat right now, and we'll go through thick and thin together. Everyone here fought with their lives to obtain all of this, and it wasn't just Yang Yi, who did it. It's decided. The gazes all of them shot at Yang Yi now had changed slightly, and it had acceptance in them. After all, none of them would actually dare to fight back if Yang Yi intended to take everything for himself, because they wouldn't have even dared to attack the Thousand Crane Sect if it wasn't for Yang Yi. But he hadn't done that. Even if Yang Yi was ruthless, overbearing, and domineering, once he acknowledged someone as one of his own, then he never treated them unfairly, would never abandon that person, and would never act selfishly. His attitude towards others was based on their attitude towards him. Yang Yi paid no further attention to them. He just turned around, looked up at the sky, and fell into deep thought. Meanwhile, Zinan suddenly walked over to Yang Yi and asked, Why didn't you just send out all of those puppets in the beginning? Qiu Yuan walked over to their side and said, Because we might be unable to leave with our lives if we did that. Zinan was puzzled. Why? Qiu Yuan explained. If the gap between our strengths was too huge. In other words, if they felt that they had no chance to win, then what do you think they would do? Zinan thought for a moment, and then her expression changed. They'll summon their ancestor. Qiu Yuan nodded. 100 high-rank saints and Yang Yi, who's comparable to a quasi-emperor. They can't resist such a force at all. Under such circumstances, they would only have a single choice, and it's to summon their ancestor. Once we force them to do that, then not to mention killing and plundering, even escaping with our lives will be a problem for us. Yang Yi glanced at Qiu Yuan and nodded slightly. Actually, he could have just summoned his sword servant at the quasi-emperor realm and all the high-rank saints. But he hadn't done that. Why? Because he was afraid that the Thousand Crane Sect would summon its ancestor. Once an emperor descended here, all of them might be annihilated. But if he only revealed 50 high-rank saints, then the Thousand Crane Sect would definitely not summon its ancestor. Even though he didn't know the price that had to be paid in order to summon an emperor down to this world, he knew that it was definitely huge. Because the Thousand Crane Sect hadn't summoned their ancestor even when he was slaughtering his way through their sect that day, and it was sufficient to prove that the price to summon their ancestor was really huge. Zinan nodded slightly when she heard Qiu Yuan. I understand. Meanwhile, Qiu Yuan spoke abruptly. We've arrived at Sky Capital City. Yang Yi nodded, and then he glanced at Qiu Yuan. The latter flicked 10 spatial rings to Yang Yi. The spatial rings contained everything they gained from the Thousand Crane Sect. Yang Yi said, I'll be back in a while. Activate the concealment formation on the cloud shuttle. I'll notify you immediately if anything goes wrong. The two of them nodded. Yang Ye's figure flashed and vanished from the cloud shuttle. At the same time, Zinan spoke abruptly. What do you think about him? Qiu Yuan said, He isn't a qualified leader. Zinan remained silent. Meanwhile, Qiu Yuan added, However, he's the leader that we need the most right now. We need a leader who can hold his own and dares to fight. He's exactly that. However, it'll put us in danger. Zinan was at a loss for words. Yang Yi snuck into Sky Capital City, and then he rushed straight for the Cloud Merchant Group's branch there. He hadn't walked in openly, and he'd snuck into the branch as well. If he were to walk in just like that, he would cause trouble for both by Xianxia and himself. Yang Ye's divine sense swept the surroundings, and it didn't take long for him to notice by Xianxia. But his expression changed when he arrived at her room. Because a quasi-emperor was actually within her room. Xianxia, you really are absolutely audacious. You actually lent that Imperial Cloud Shuttle to someone. Moreover, it was to that madman Yang Yi. Do you know that the Mo clan, the Law faction, and the Thousand Crane Sect's experts have come to see me, your father? They asked me if our Bai clan intends to go against them. Besides them, those bastards from the Li clan and Fan clan within our merchant group have come to look for trouble with me as well. They say that we're dragging the merchant group down with us? A voice resounded from within the room. By Xiangyao's father? Yang Yi frowned slightly as he stood outside the room. Bai Xiangyao spoke in a low voice. The Imperial Cloud Shuttle belongs to our Bai clan. So what does it have to do with their Li clan and Fan clan? That's what I think. Bai Xiangyao's father spoke angrily. But what can we do? Because we really are dragging the merchant group down with us. The Mo clan has already stated that if we don't take the Imperial Cloud Shuttle back and cut ties with Yang Yi, then it's best if our merchant group doesn't appear within their territory. Otherwise, they'll kill as many of our people as they see. They're going too far. Bai Xiangyao was furious. Could it be that our merchant group is just going to allow the Mo clan to threaten us? Bai Xiangyao's father said, We are business people, so we have to consider the value behind our every action. Tell me, what does Yang Yi have which is worthy of us offending the Mo clan? As far as the merchant group is concerned, it isn't worth it at all. Yang Ye's natural talent is very good. But so what? He's all alone in the end. As for White Deer Academy, it's already crippled. Even if Feng Qingyi returns to the academy and works together with Yang Yi, the Mo clan, Thousand Crane Sect, and Law faction would still have to spare them if they are to have a chance at rising up in the world. But is that even possible? Bai Xiangyao asked, What are you trying to say? I know that you definitely have a way to contact that kid. Quickly tell him to come here right now. Bai Xiangyao replied, You intend to capture him and give him to the Mo clan? I'm not that stupid. Even though he's only a half-saint, his potential is extraordinarily huge. What if he doesn't die? Then I would have offended an extraordinary expert for our Bai clan. I'm only asking you to call him here so that he can return the Imperial Cloud Shuttle to us. After that, you have to proclaim that you've cut all ties with him. Then this problem will be resolved. Bai Xiangyao remained silent for a short while, and then she said, I can't contact him. Meanwhile, her father spoke abruptly. Xiangyao, do you like that kid? What nonsense are you speaking? Bai Xiangyao's voice carried a trace of anger. It's fine so long as you don't. That kid is a madman. Even though his arrival in our Bai clan wouldn't be a disgrace to our Bai clan can't endure the consequences of his current and future actions. Bai Xiangyao was at a loss for words. All right, call him here and make him return the Imperial Cloud Shuttle to us. Even if you refuse to do it for your father, do it for our Bai clan. Bai Xiangyao remained silent. Manager Bai, I'm sorry for causing trouble for you. Suddenly, Yang Ye's voice resounded in the room. Yang Yi appeared within the room. Besides Bai Xiangyao, there was a middle-aged man in luxurious robes who Bai Xiangyao bore some resemblance to. Obviously, he was her father. Young Master Yang? There was surprise in Bai Xiangyao's eyes. Obviously, she hadn't expected him to suddenly appear here. The middle-aged man's gaze had descended onto Yang Yi as well, and he was sizing up Yang Yi incessantly. Yang Yi nodded slightly to Bai Xiangyao and said, I'm sorry. I never expected that it would drag you into this. He hadn't expected that the Thousand Crane Sect and Mo clan had actually found out about the Imperial Cloud Shuttle and had even determined that it was Bai Xiangyao who'd lent it to him. However, it did make sense because he'd come to Sky Capital City on many occasions and had dealt with Bai Xiangyao in the past. With the Mo clan's strength, it made sense that they were able to determine Bai Xiangyao's involvement. She replied, I was careless. She too had never expected the Mo clan and Thousand Crane Sect to find out and even pressure her Bai clan. The middle-aged man spoke abruptly. Kid, aren't you afraid that I would capture you and hand you over to the Mo clan and Thousand Crane Sect? After all, the Thousand Crane Sect wishes for nothing more than to eat your flesh and drink your blood now. Yang Yi replied with a question. Would that benefit you in any way? The middle-aged man replied. Why not? If I capture you, the Mo clan and Thousand Crane Sect will definitely be on friendly terms with my Bai clan, and it'll definitely benefit my Bai clan's future business with them. Yang Yi looked the middle-aged man in the eyes and said, I'm afraid you wouldn't be alive to enjoy those benefits. The middle-aged man gazed at Yang Yi for a short while before he said, As expected of someone who has killed a quasi-emperor, you aren't even the slightest bit afraid when facing a quasi-emperor as a half-saint. All right, I'll get straight to the point. I'm not interested in interfering with the nonsense between your White Deer Academy and both the Mo clan and Thousand Crane Sect. Return the Imperial Cloud Shuttle and we won't owe each other anything from then. Yang Yi spoke decisively. I refuse. The middle-aged man was stunned. Kid, you are intending to act shamelessly? Yang Yi glanced at the middle-aged man, and then he looked at Bai Xiangyao. Miss Bai, I'm sorry for dragging you into this matter. I'll get someone to send the Imperial Cloud Shuttle back in a while. Even though it was extremely important to him right now, he still intended to return it. He could act shamelessly towards his enemies, but he couldn't do that to a friend. He treated Bai Xiangyao as a friend of his. Bai Xiangyao replied, There's no need to do that for now. Yang Yi and the middle-aged man were stunned, and the middle-aged man hurriedly said, Little girl, what nonsense are you spouting? Bai Xiangyao took a deep breath, and then she gazed at the middle-aged man and said, Father, that Imperial Cloud Shuttle belongs to me, so I have the right to choose who I borrow it to. The middle-aged man spoke solemnly. I gave it to you as your dowry for your marriage. Bai Xiangyao replied. Right? So it's mine now. The middle-aged man was exasperated. You! Meanwhile, Yang Yi said, Miss Bai, that isn't necessary. Even if I don't have that Imperial Cloud Shuttle, I can still lead those students back to the academy. The middle-aged man glared at Yang Yi and said, Kid, at least you have a heart. Bai Xiangyao shook her head slightly. But I believe that you'll be able to accomplish many things with its help. I've made my decision. If you treat me as a friend, then don't speak another word about it. The middle-aged man said, Little girl, are you trying to get your father in trouble? Xianxia gazed at the middle-aged man and said, Father, the Imperial Cloud Shuttle belongs to my Bai clan, and it's our right to lend it to whomever we like. Why should the Mo clan and Thousand Crane sect be allowed to order us around? Besides that, what does it have to do with the Li clan and Fan clan? If they say that our Bai clan is dragging the merchant group down with us, then I'll just withdraw from the merchant group. Withdraw from the merchant group? The middle-aged man's expression changed slightly upon hearing her, and a short while passed before he laughed bitterly. You're just like your sister. She likes to speak about withdrawing from the merchant group for every small thing. Xianxia stated, The merchant group isn't as harmonious as it used to be. What else are those old bastards good for besides scheming against each other? The harm to our Bai clan from staying within the merchant group actually outweighs the benefits. Don't try to change the topic. I'll deal with the matters related to the merchant group. Don't worry, your father isn't a weakling. The middle-aged man continued. Now, let's take about the Imperial Cloud Shuttle and this kid. Xianxiao's attitude was very firm. There's nothing to talk about. I've already lent it to him. The middle-aged man said, I respect your decision. Yang Yi and Xianxia were stunned upon hearing this. That fellow changed his mind? As if he knew what they were thinking, the middle-aged man said, Do you know why I suddenly changed my mind? Because this kid takes you into consideration. That proves he isn't a heartless and selfish person. To be a little more direct, his potential is huge, and he might be able to help our Bai clan. Of course, if he was a selfish and heartless person, then I wouldn't have agreed no matter how great his potential is. As our ancestor once said, if you intend to invest in a person, then consider character before potential. Xianxia spoke softly. But what about the Mo clan and Thousand Crane sect? They can't do anything to me. The middle-aged man continued. At the very most, we just can't do business within their territory. As for the merchant group, can they remove me from my position? They wouldn't dare to do so no matter how brave they are. Meanwhile, Yang Yi suddenly said, Thank you. The middle-aged man turned around to gaze at Yang Yi. You think you're very strong, right? Yang Yi replied, It's not bad. The middle-aged man said, You think I didn't notice your presence just now? Yang Yi glanced at the middle-aged man and said, So what if you did? The middle-aged man gazed at Yang Yi for a short while, and then he said, Next time let's fight in single combat. I'll allow you to realize that not all quasi-emperors are as weak as that fellow from the Thousand Crane sect. Just like you. Even though you're a half-saint, not all half-saints are as strong as you. There's a difference in strength between quasi-emperors as well. As soon as he finished speaking, the middle-aged man grunted before leaving the room. Yang Yi was at a loss for words. Meanwhile, Xianxia suddenly asked, Young Master Yang, did you come here for something? Yang Yi nodded, and then he withdrew 10 spatial rings and passed them to her. Look at these. See how much they are worth. Xianxia asked, They are your spoils from the Thousand Crane sect? Yang Yi nodded. Will it cause you any trouble? She shook her head in response. My cloud merchant group never considers the origins of things that it buys. Please wait a moment. Let me have a look and appraise their value. She moved aside once she finished speaking. Meanwhile, the middle-aged man's voice suddenly arose within Yang Ye's mind. Kid, come out here for a chat. Yang Yi hesitated for a moment, and then he left the room. Xianxia glanced at Yang Yi, and then she pondered deeply for a moment before starting to inspect the contents of the spatial rings. Outside the room, Yang Yi walked over to the middle-aged man's side and asked, Senior, do you need something? The middle-aged man replied, White Deer Academy can't be saved. Are you interested in joining my Bai clan? Don't worry. So long as you agree, I'll deal with the Mo clan and Thousand Crane sect for you. Yang Yi replied with a question, Will you really accept me? The middle-aged man remained silent for a short while, and then he smiled. Indeed, if you abandon White Deer Academy right now, then I would really not dare to accept you. I refuse to foster an ungrateful bastard. At this point, the middle-aged man spoke seriously. To be honest, White Deer Academy is in a hopeless situation. At the very least, I don't think there's a way to turn the situation around. So, what is your plan? Xianxia replied, what else? They want to kill me, so I can only kill them. The middle-aged man said, if the Mo clan really goes all out, then even the White Deer Academy before it split up wouldn't be a match for them. Xianxia replied with a question. Senior, do you intend to assist my White Deer Academy? Don't even think about getting me to help. The middle-aged man continued. My Bai clan won't allow itself to be dragged into the enmity between you and them. I'm just very curious about what your plans are for the future. Xianxia replied, I have no plans. I intend to fight to the very end. The middle-aged man glanced at Xianxia. He was about to say something, but Bai Xiangyao walked out from the room. She glanced at them, and then she walked over to Xianxia. According to my estimations, the treasures within those 10 spatial rings are worth around 50,000 violet crystals. But if you don't sell them in one go and allow us to auction them off, then it might sell for 60,000 or even 70,000 violet crystals. However, we'll take commission from the sale, and the merchant group should take around 5,000 violet crystals. How can you do business like that? The middle-aged man laughed bitterly. You revealed everything to him. Xianxia shook his head and said, I don't have the time to wait for the auction to be conducted. Then should I give you 50,000 violet crystals right now? Bai Xiangyao continued, but you'll lose quite a bit like that. Xianxia replied, it is what it is. In any case, it's still a profit for me. Bai Xiangyao grinned. This is a huge deal for me. There'll probably be no one who can compete with me in the performance evaluation this year. As she spoke, she turned around and left. It didn't take long for her to return, and then she flicked a spatial ring to Xianxia. Xianxia didn't even inspect its contents before he said, Senior, Miss Bai, I have many matters to attend to, so I'll be bidding my farewells now. The middle-aged man chuckled. You can come here if you gain more treasures. We'll take them all no matter how many you have. Bai Xiangyao glared at the middle-aged man, and then she gazed at Xianxia. Be careful. Farewell. As soon as he finished speaking, Xiangxia's figure vanished on the spot. Bai Xiangyao looked ahead towards the distance while her jet-black brows were knit slightly together, and she seemed to be lost in thought. The middle-aged man suddenly said, Have you fallen for him? Bai Xiangyao immediately revealed a wisp of anger on her face, and she said, What nonsense are you spouting? She turned around and left once she finished speaking. The middle-aged man instantly heaved a sigh of relief. That's good. If you really fell for that fellow, then I can dream of living in peace throughout my lifetime. That kid's a madman, and only the Nether Pavilion or Evil Faction are able to protect that madman. Xianxia had just returned to the Imperial Cloud Shuttle when Xiao Yuan and Zi Nen came over to greet him, and they had extremely solemn expressions on their faces. Xiao Yuan spoke solemnly. The Mo clan, Thousand Crane Sect, and Law Faction have started to attack the city. Xiangxia's eyes instantly narrowed. On the Imperial Cloud Shuttle, Xiao Yuan spoke solemnly. 3 quasi-emperors from the Mo clan and the Law Faction's Lileaguai are attacking White Deer City right now. Besides that, they've gathered a force of almost 500 high-rank saints and over 2,000 ordinary saints. It can be said that besides the Mo clan, the Law Faction and Thousand Crane Sect have dispatched all their elites. Xianxia asked, How long can White Deer City hold on for? Xiao Yuan replied, With the Grand Formation, the Dean, and the Vice Dean, it should be able to hold for 4 hours. Will the Academy summon its ancestor once the city is breached? If it comes to that, then it's the moment of life and death for the Academy. Xiao Yuan continued, You might not be aware of it, but a huge price must be paid for an emperor to be summoned to our dimension. Firstly, this dimension is unable to endure the strength of an emperor, so the arrival of an emperor represents the arrival of heavenly wrath. Secondly, the summoning of an emperor requires an extremely huge amount of profound energy. The amount of profound energy required is almost equivalent to the profound energy of everyone within the city. In other words, summoning the ancestor of our academy is equivalent to utilizing the profound energy of everyone in the city in exchange for the arrival of an emperor in our dimension. Qiu Yuan's voice became heavy at this point. Moreover, emperors are able to stay in our dimension for 15 minutes at most. If he's unable to annihilate all our enemies within 15 minutes, then death will truly be awaiting all of us. Because at that time, the members of our academy would probably not have the strength to resist at all. No wonder the Thousand Cranes sect didn't dare rashly summon its ancestor, said Yang Yi. If the Thousand Crane sect had summoned its ancestor, then even if the Thousand Crane sect could kill all of them, it might be wiped off the face of the Central Divine Prefecture if another power were to suddenly launch a surprise attack against it at that time. The summoning of a sect's ancestor was equivalent to taking the enemy down with the entire sect. Unless there was no other choice, there was no power which was willing to do that. It was like that for the Thousand Crane sect, and it was the same for White Deer Academy. Qiu Yuan gazed at Yang Yi. What should we do now? Everyone else gazed at Yang Yi as well. Yang Yi glanced at them and said, Now we have two choices. The first is to leave the Central Divine Prefecture and go somewhere else to preserve the Academy's inheritance. The second choice is to kill our way back to the Academy, and we'll live and die with the Academy. Regardless of whether it's the first or second choice, they are both in the best interests of the Academy, and there's no difference between the two. Zinan replied, I naturally intend to go back. Qiu Yuan nodded as well. To be honest, even if that so-called inheritance is preserved, are we going to revive the Academy once it's gone? What a joke. We would probably be hiding all over the world then. Would anyone even want to experience such days? Moreover, the Academy needs us now, so how can we leave at a time like this? Zinan nodded. Exactly. If we are to flee, and the Academy wins, then how are we to face our brother and sisters in the Academy? Return to the Academy. Live and die with the Academy. Right? We'll live and die with the Academy. All of them made their stands clear, and none of them chose to leave the Central Divine Prefecture. Yang Yi glanced at them, and then he flicked a spatial ring to Qiu Yuan. There are 50,000 violet crystals there. Distribute them. Suddenly, Zinan said, Just distribute 10,000 to everyone here. Yang Yi gazed at Zinan and asked, Why? Zinan tapped the ground lightly with her foot. You should be clearly aware of how many violet crystals this thing consumes. We can't make you pay for all those violet crystals by yourself, right? Besides that, this Imperial Cloud Shuttle isn't just capable of extremely swift speeds, it possesses offensive formations as well. So long as we possess sufficient violet crystals, then it can even fight a quasi-emperor. Of course, the precondition is sufficient violet crystals because at least 1,000 violet crystals are required for every activation of its formations. 1,000 violet crystals. The corners of Yang Ye's eyes twitched slightly. 1,000 violet crystals. This cloud shuttle really burns through money. Yang Yi glanced at them and said, According to what Zinan said, 10,000 will be distributed, while the rest will be used to maintain the Imperial Cloud Shuttle. Do all of you have any objections to that? None. The others immediately shook their heads. If anyone were to act selfishly at a time like this, then that person would truly be courting death. Yang Yi nodded, and then he gazed at Zinan. You control the Cloud Shuttle. Don't hesitate to use the violet crystals if we get into battle. We can just seek compensation from the Dean in the future. Zinan was speechless. Yang Yi turned around and looked towards the distance. He pondered deeply for an instant before he waved his right hand and said, Return to the Academy! Return to the Academy! Everyone here roared in unison. It didn't take long for the Cloud Shuttle to change its direction and shoot off in White Deer City's direction. White Deer City. Bang! 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 At this moment, explosions were resounding incessantly in the sky above White Deer City, and the barrier of light in the sky and the entire city were trembling violently. There were 4 quasi-emperors attacking madly in the sky. Meanwhile, Countless cultivators in the city were ceaselessly pouring their profound energy into the barrier of light. Grand formations like this exhausted immense amounts of profound energy, so it couldn't resist the attacks of quasi-emperors without an endless supply of profound energy to maintain its strength. Xiao Bieli had his hands behind his back as he stood on the city wall, and he was looking up into the sky while gloominess and solemnness filled his eyes. Xiao Ling and Su Shurha were standing by his side. Su Shurha said, Yang Ye's surprise attack on the Thousand Crane sect undid their show of strength and grew our morale instead. They dare not continue delaying anymore. Xiao Ling spoke abruptly. We might not be able to defend the city. Su Shurha nodded. The grand formation here is much more inferior to the grand formation of our academy. Why don't we order everyone to retreat Ascension Mountain? We have to defend the city. Xiao Bieli spoke solemnly. This city is our foundation. If we lose it, then not to mention the property we lose, countless people in the city will perish as well. The students of our academy are living people, and the residents of the city are living people too. We can't abandon or give up on one of them. Su Shurha glanced at Xiao Bieli, and then he said, We have to prepare for the worst. Xiao Bieli replied, The worst-case scenario is summoning one of our ancestors. The corners of Su Shurha's eyes twitched. Are we really going to do that? After all, once they summon their ancestor, it would represent a fight to the death. If we don't, then what else can we do? Xiao Bieli looked up at the sky. Have you not realized? The entire Central Divine Prefecture is watching the Mo clan and Thousand Crane sect. They have no way to back down now. If they aren't able to crush us, then the Thousand Crane sect won't be the only laughingstock of the Central Divine Prefecture. The Mo clan would be one as well. As for the Thousand Crane sect, it goes without saying. They'll only be able to wash away the humiliation they've received by crushing us. So, once they enter the city, do you think anyone in the city will be able to survive? Su Shurha spoke solemnly. But what if we're unable to annihilate them after we summon our ancestor? What would we do then? Xiao Bieli fell silent, and his hands behind his back were slowly clenched tightly. A long time passed before Xiao Bieli spoke. Send a voice transmission to Yang Ye's group and tell them not to return. Tell them to leave the Central Divine Prefecture and go as far away as they can so that we have some hope. Su Shurha's face became gloomy, and a short while passed before he nodded and left. After Su Shurha left, Xiao Ling asked, We can't crush them even after we summon our academy's ancestor to our dimension? We definitely can. Xiao Bieli continued, However, do you think they haven't anticipated that? They've definitely anticipated it, and they've surely prepared for it. You have to realize that while emperors are strong, it doesn't represent that they are invincible. Especially emperors who forcefully descend to this dimension. Their strength will be reduced to a certain extent. Xiao Ling said, Our White Deer Academy has arrived at a moment of life and death just like that. Xiao Bieli looked up at the sky, and a cold glow flashed through his eyes as he watched those quasi-emperors in the sky attack the city's defensive formation. He said, Don't worry. Even if our White Deer Academy is destroyed, I'll make them pay an unbearable price. Especially the Mo clan. Ha ha ha. An ancient clan. Let me see how great their reserves are. Suddenly, Su Shurha walked over and said, They didn't reply. Xiao Bieli frowned. Meanwhile, Xiao Ling said, Don't worry about them. They'll be fine with Yang Yi there with them. As for leaving the Central Divine Prefecture, while I don't know what the others will decide, I know that Yang Yi will definitely not leave. Su Shurha nodded with agreement. He was willing to come to the Central Divine Prefecture for Ocean of Clouds Academy, and that's sufficient to display his character. So he will definitely not abandon the academy. Ha ha. To be honest, I don't know if I should feel gratified or helpless. I actually hope that he leads those students away, because so long as they are alive, and especially while Yang Yi is alive, then our academy will still have hope even if it's destroyed today. Bang! Suddenly, a loud explosion resounded in the sky, and then the barrier of light in the sky started to crack apart. Mo Tion's voice resounded in the sky. White Deer Academy, if you surrender and submit to my Mo clan, then you can live. Otherwise, White Deer Academy will cease to exist for today onwards. Xiao Bieli spoke coldly. Motion. It's already at a time like this, so why play such psychological tactics against us? If you have the ability, then feel free to attack us. I knew you would say that. As soon as Motion finished speaking, he raised his hand and slapped his palm down against the barrier of light. Li Leaguai and the other 3 quasi-emperors of the Mo clan hurriedly attacked as well. How terrifying was the joint attacks of 5 quasi-emperors. Even if they had the barrier of light to protect them, everyone in the city still felt like the sky was about to collapse. Bang! The grand formation shattered into pieces. Li Leaguai's roaring laughter, that was filled with madness, resounded in the sky. Ha ha ha! Xiao Bieli. I, Li Leaguai, told you that I would be back. I didn't lie, right? Motion's voice resounded right after that. Attack! Swoosh! 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 The 1,000+ experts who were standing on guard outside the city immediately shot into the city. 5 quasi-emperors, over 500 high-rank saints, and over 1,000 ordinary saints. Even the White Deer Academy before it split would find it difficult to resist such a force, let alone now. The battle hadn't even begun. But their imposing auras caused the cultivators of White Deer City to feel almost suffocated. Activate the formations! Xiao Bieli's voice resounded. As soon as Xiao Bieli gave the order, all the cultivators in the city instantly calmed down, and the students who were hidden at the 4 corners of the city immediately formed strange seals. After that, the entire city shook violently. Especially beneath White Deer City, it seemed like something was about to emerge from beneath the ground. It didn't take long for 4 huge pillars of light to shoot up into the sky. Every single one of them contained a huge beast, and there was an azure dragon, a fiery red phoenix, a dark blue tortoise, and a pure white tiger. Even though they were all condensed into form with energy, they seemed like they were material beasts, and the pressure they emanated wasn't inferior to quasi-emperors at all. The 4-symbol formation. Li Leaguai cried out involuntarily when he saw the 4 huge beasts. Xiao Bieli, you've gone mad. You actually utilized the underground veins of White Deer Dimension to condense the 4 divine beasts. The underground veins he spoke of naturally represented the veins of energy beneath the city, and they were equivalent to spirit veins. However, they weren't as good as high-grade spirit veins, but they were part of White Deer City's foundation. Once those underground veins vanished, White Deer City would be completely crippled, because the city would slowly lose its vitality without the presence of those veins, and it would start to repulse spirit energy. Simply speaking, it would be ruined. At that time, it would be absolutely impossible for any geniuses to appear in the city. In other words, even if he could obtain White Deer City, it would be ruined. It's better than allowing everyone in the city to perish. Xiao Bieli glanced coldly at Li Leaguai, and then he said, activate all the formations and kill any who enter the city. As soon as Xiao Bieli gave the order, numerous blue circles of light instantly appeared within the city, and then beams of light ceaselessly flickered out from them and shot towards the enemy. At the same time, the 4 divine beasts at the 4 corners of the city roared and howled in unison, and then they shot towards Motion and the other quasi-emperors. Kill everyone? Xiao Bieli, such high-sounding sentiments. You intend to kill us with just a few lousy formations? You're truly too naive. As soon as Motion finished speaking, the other 3 elders of the Mo clan immediately shot towards the 4 divine beasts. As for Motion and Li Leaguai, they gazed at Xiao Bieli and Xiao Ling instead. Both sides had locked onto each other, and if any of them were to make a move, the other would definitely attack. However, both sides didn't attack at this moment. Even though the high-rank saints of White Deer Academy were fewer than the Mo clan, Thousand Crane Sect, and Law Faction, they were still able to resist the 1,500+ experts they were facing while relying on the formations to assist them in battle. However, it was obvious that White Deer Academy was in a disadvantaged state. Even though the 4 divine beasts were extremely strong, they were still far insufficient to go against 3 quasi-emperors. They were just bodies of energy in the end, and they weren't true divine beasts. As for the students in the city below, while they were able to resist the enemy with the assistance of the various formations, the moment their formations were destroyed would be the moment they lost their lives. There was truly a huge gap in the top-tier strength of both sides to the battle. Xiaobieli, I bet you didn't expect that your scholarly faction would suffer such a fate, right? Li Leaguai laughed coldly as he gazed at Xiaobieli, and he felt indescribably happy. That day, he and the Law faction had been driven out of White Deer Dimension. Now, his Law faction had returned domineeringly, and he felt happy from being able to vent and take revenge. Xiaobieli glanced at Li Leaguai and spoke indifferently. No matter what happens, my scholarly faction will be standing up straight like men. As for your Law faction, both you and your Law faction are just dogs of the Mo clan. I really can't figure out why you feel so complacent from being a dog. Li Leaguai's face fell. By colluding with the Mo clan, he'd naturally promised the Mo clan some things. Otherwise, the Mo clan would definitely not declare war against White Deer Academy, and it would just force White Deer Academy to hand Xianxia over and just act against Xianxia. Because the Mo clan would lose a lot from a war. Just like this very moment, the Mo clan had already lost a quasi-emperor since the war between it and White Deer Academy began. The Mo clan was no fool. Unless there were sufficient benefits, why would it do something that was against its interests? The benefits were naturally what Li Leaguai had promised the Mo clan. Even though he couldn't really accept the terms that he'd had to promise, he felt that any price was worth it if it would allow the Law faction to return to White Deer Dimension and reclaim everything that belonged to it. Li Leaguai laughed coldly. Xiaobieli, just save it. I hope you'll still be able to talk so much when you watch all the members of your scholarly faction dying miserably. Xiaobieli didn't waste his breath further. He just glanced at the surroundings, and then his face instantly fell. Many formations in the surroundings had been destroyed, and many students had been killed. As for the 4 divine beasts, they were growing ethereal before the joint forces of those 3 quasi-emperors from the Mo clan. It seemed like they would vanish completely at any moment. Xiaobieli slowly clenched his fists. Emotion's eyes narrowed slightly while his hands behind his back were clenched tightly as well. As for Li Leaguai, he gazed at Xiaobieli with a cold smile on his face. Bang! Suddenly, a loud explosion resounded from outside the city, and then a black bear of light shot through the sky and slammed against a quasi-emperor from the Mo clan. The black pillar of light was extremely swift and sudden. That quasi-emperor from the Mo clan didn't even have the time to dodge once he recovered from his shock. He had no choice but to face it head-on. Bang! A loud explosion resounded, and then he was blasted flying. Everyone looked out of the city, and they saw a huge cloud shuttle had suddenly appeared there. Moreover, a familiar face was standing on it. Xianxia! Someone cried out involuntarily. It's Xianxia! For some unknown reason, many of them heaved sighs of relief upon catching sight of Xianxia, and they couldn't help but reveal a smile. Xiaobieli revealed a slight smile as well, and Xiaoling said, See, I told you that kid will come back. Oh, those little fellows came back with him as well. Xiaobieli nodded slightly. Even though he hoped that Xianxia would lead those students away from the Central Divine Prefecture, he felt extremely gratified when he saw Xianxia and the others. Emotion and Li Leaguai were looking at Xianxia as well, and both of their faces had turned gloomy upon seeing him. In Li Leaguai's opinion, Xianxia could be considered as the reason why he and the Law faction had been turned into homeless dogs. So, he wanted to kill Xianxia even in his dreams. As for Emotion, he naturally wanted to kill Xianxia as well. Xianxia hadn't just killed Emotion. Xianxia had even killed Mog right before his eyes. That was a humiliation for both him and the Mo clan. So, that humiliation would follow the Mo clan for eternity unless Xianxia was killed. Xianxia glanced at Emotion and Li Leaguai, and then he waved his right hand. 100 black-clothed figures shot into the city, and the addition of these 100 high-rank saints instantly alleviated the pressure on the students in the city. Xianxia's figure shot over to Xiaobieli, and he nodded slightly to Xiaobieli before he said, I'm not too late, right? Xiaobieli replied, Actually, you should have left. Xianxia said, I'm unable to do something like that. Xiaobieli laughed bitterly and said, Fine, since you're back, then we'll have a good battle with them. Let me see if our White Deer Academy will be eliminated from the Central Divine Prefecture today. Yang Yi nodded, and then he turned around to look at Li Leaguai and Emotion. Meanwhile, Emotion spoke abruptly. Yang Yi, we were waiting for you. You're finally here. Xiao Bieli immediately frowned upon hearing Xiao Tian, and a bad feeling arose in his heart. It was the same for Yang Yi. Emotion gazed at them and laughed coldly. Xiao Bieli, Yang Yi, did you think that this is the extent of my Mo clan's strength? We're serious this time. As soon as Emotion finished speaking, the space beside Emotion shook slightly, and then Feng Qingyu and 2 more gray-robed old men appeared here. 3 more quasi-emperors. If the 5 from before were included, the Mo clan, Thousand Crane Sect, and Law faction had 8 quasi-emperors in total. The faces of everyone in White Deer City turned pale at the sight of this. If it was only 5 quasi-emperors, then they would still have a chance. But if it was 8, how could they possibly fight such a battle? Xiao Bieli clenched his fists while killing intent surged in his eyes. Looks like your Mo clan really intends to annihilate my White Deer Academy. Did you think my Mo clan was plying with you? Mo Tian laughed coldly, and then he gazed at Feng Qingyu. Sect Master Feng? I'll leave Yang Yi to you. It's not a problem, right? Of course. Feng Qingyu stared fixedly at Yang Yi. A moment later, she waved her hand, and then the space here warped. After that, Yang Yi vanished on the spot, and when his figure appeared again, both he and Feng Qingyu were within a blue barrier of light in midair. Feng Qingyu gazed ferociously at Yang Yi. I'm going to skin you alive, pull out your meridians, and then imprison your soul so that you'll experience an eternity of pain. Right, don't you worry. I'll make that woman of yours, Xiao Yushi, accompany you as well. As soon as she finished speaking, Feng Qingyu's figure shot towards Yang Yi. Attack! Mo Tian's voice resounded as well. Ancestral summoning. Suddenly, Xiao Bieli's voice resounded, and then a pillar of profound energy shot out from within him and pierced the sky. Everyone in the surroundings was stunned by Xiao Bieli's order, but it didn't take long for them to circulate their profound energy before numerous beams of profound energy pierced the sky. The sky dimmed down. It didn't take long for a monstrous wave of pressure to rain down from the sky. You've finally summoned your ancestor? Mo Tian's eyes narrowed slightly, and then he turned around and looked towards the distance. It's time for you to act. As soon as Mo Tian spoke, the space there was suddenly split apart, and then a one-armed man in a white robe walked out from within the spatial rift. There was an unsheathed saber hanging on the man's waist. The saber was a little over a meter long, and it seemed like a piece of scrap metal which was covered in rust. The one-armed man disregarded everyone, and he just gazed up calmly into the sky. Xiao Bieli's expression instantly changed drastically when he saw the one-armed man, and he spoke with astonishment. You're the Saber Monarch? Yi Lingfeng. The expressions of the others here changed drastically when they heard Xiao Bieli, and it even included Li Leaguai who stood by Mo Tian's side. The Saber Monarch Yi Lingfeng, one whose saber left no survivors. The 7th on the martial rankings. The top 10 on the martial rankings had always been mysterious, because most who entered the top 10 of the martial rankings wouldn't stay in the radiant dimension, and they would head to other dimensions to train and temper themselves. Why? Because a world without emperors didn't pose any threat to them. So, how could they improve in a world which wasn't able to pose any threat to them? Thus, once many attained a certain level of strength, they would choose to leave and temper themselves in other dimensions. That was exactly why few were ever able to meet such geniuses. However, everyone throughout the Central Divine Prefecture knew of these monstrous geniuses. Just like the Saber Monarch, Yi Lingfeng. There were countless legends about him, and the most renowned one was how he'd killed an emperor outside the radiant dimension. No one knew if it was true, but rumors didn't just pop out of nowhere. Since such a legend had spread, it proved that even if he hadn't killed an emperor, he'd definitely fought one. The ability to fight an emperor was shocking enough. After all, Yi Lingfeng was just a high-rank saint. The gazes of everyone here had descended upon Yi Lingfeng. Yi Lingfeng wore a white robe, and there was a white cape behind him. The striking part about him was his white hair. Of course, the gazes of everyone here wasn't on his hair, it was on his left shoulder instead. Because his sleeve was fluttering with the wind, and it was completely empty. Obviously, he'd lost his arm. It aroused the curiosity of everyone because those at the Saint Realm could regrow their limbs. But Yi Lingfeng remained with a single arm. No one knew why. At this moment, none of them were interested in the reason. Yi Lingfeng's arrival was undoubtedly like adding fuel to the flame for the experts of White Deer City. Because Yi Lingfeng had been brought here by Mo Tian. What was the relationship between Yi Lingfeng and the Mo clan? That was the question in all their minds right now. Bang! Suddenly, an expanse of white mist appeared in the sky, and then a pillar of light descended to White Deer City. A violet-robed old man who held a white ruler in his hand descended slowly from within the pillar of light. At the same time, a terrifying aura rained down from above. The entire world trembled before this aura, and many within the city were even forced down on their bellies. Of course, the reason they were in such a state was mainly because they'd used all their profound energy to summon the old man. So, they weren't able to utilize any profound energy to resist the pressure. The aura of an emperor surpassed the aura of the world. But it didn't take long for the aura to vanish, and then everything here returned to calm. After the old man's figure appeared here, Xiao Bieli and all the other students of White Deer Academy immediately bowed to the old man and spoke in unison, "Martial ancestor." Meanwhile, Yi Lingfeng's right hand held tightly onto the hilt of his saber while he gazed at the old man. As for Mo Tian and the others, they revealed solemn expressions. After all, it was an emperor. Even though they were confident in Yi Lingfeng, they would be finished if he didn't live up to his reputation. The old man glanced at the surroundings. In the end, his gaze descended upon Xiao Bieli. "Bieli?" Xiao Bieli nodded. "Martial Uncle Ing." The old man glanced at the surroundings again, and then he said, "I never expected our academy to fall to such a state." Xiao Bieli spoke with embarrassment. "It was my lack of ability that caused this." The old man shook his head slightly. The academy shouldn't have been divided into the law and scholarly faction. The seeds of this calamity were planted all those years ago, and it just ripened now. Of course, you can't escape blame for the fate of the academy. Benevolence is a merit of yours, but it's a flaw of yours as well. Xiao Bieli bowed slightly and didn't refute it. The old man immediately gazed at Mo Tian right after that. "Is there any chance of reconciliation?" Mo Tian replied, "No." The old man nodded, and then he gazed at Yi Lingfeng. "Amongst the people here, there are 4 who feel dangerous to me. You're one of them, and your gaze has been locked on me. I presume they brought you here to deal with me. Come, let me see how strong the current geniuses of the radiant dimension are." Yi Lingfeng took a step forward, and then he stretched his right hand forward. "Lend me a saber." As soon as he spoke, the sky here dimmed down, and then the spirit energy in a vast area suddenly converged towards him. In just an instant, a saber that was condensed from countless strands of spirit energy had appeared in his grasp. The saber wasn't long, and it was only a little over 1/3 of a meter in length, and its width was shorter than a finger. However, when Yi Lingfeng took it in his grasp, a terrifying aura surged out from within him, and it was like an invisible blade that swept directly at the violet-robed old man. The old man shook the white ruler in his right grasp, and a clear and resounding of a bell swept out from it. Bang! An explosion resounded through the sky. The old man waved his left hand slightly, and then the sky instantly returned to normal. Slash! Meanwhile, Yi Lingfeng's voice resounded, and then a snow-white ray of saber energy swept forward. The space before Yi Lingfeng was instantly shattered into bits. At the same time, the spectators were astounded to notice that the saber energy was actually spinning like a top as it shot towards the old man. The space in its path was instantly minced into bits, and even the laws of the Heaven Tao couldn't immediately restore the damaged space. Xiao Bieli and the others revealed extremely solemn expressions at the sight of this scene. It wasn't just Xiao Bieli who reacted in this way. Even Mo Tian and the other quasi-emperors there revealed solemn expressions as well. because the might of this attack was something that even they would probably be unable to resist. Just this attack alone told them that Yi Lingfeng's reputation wasn't undeserved. The old man's face was calm as he gazed at the saber energy. When it arrived in front of him, the old man tapped the white ruler forward, and a speck of cold light instantly flashed out from its tip. Bang! The saber energy stabbed against the old man's ruler, and rumbling resounded through the sky. The entire sky was trembling violently, and the space there even cracked apart. Numerous cracks covered the sky, and it was truly a shocking sight to behold. Most importantly, the old man had actually been pushed 5 steps back. Moreover, the saber energy hadn't vanished. It was still pressing down against the old man's ruler. The old man's eyes narrowed slightly, and he suddenly twisted the ruler, causing a ray of cold light to instantly explode in the sky. Bang! The saber energy was instantly blasted apart by the cold light, and the sight of this allowed Xiao Bieli and the others to instantly heave sighs of relief. However, the shattered pieces of the saber energy suddenly shook in midair, and then they swiftly converged together before the saber energy shot at the old man again. A wisp of surprise flashed through the old man's eyes, but his expression remained calm and composed as he swung the ruler forward. An array of white light shot forward and slammed against the saber energy. Bang! A loud explosion resounded in the sky again, and then a terrifying wave of energy swept towards the surroundings. The space throughout the entire sky rippled violently in its wake. It didn't take long for the sky to return to calm. The old man gazed at Yi Lingfeng while a trace of seriousness could be seen in his eyes. Meanwhile, Yi Lingfeng pondered deeply for an instant, and then he stomped his right foot against the space beneath him. His figure shot up into the sky while enveloped by saber energy. Everywhere he passed, space was instantly torn apart. When he was about to reach the old man, Yi Lingfeng raised the saber in his hand and swung it. There was a solemn expression in the old man's eyes, and he didn't dare act carelessly in the slightest as he raised his ruler swiftly to collide with Yi Lingfeng's attack. Bang! The saber and ruler collided, and the entire sky trembled. They split apart as soon as they collided, and then the old man took a few dozen steps back. But just a moment passed before Yi Lingfeng suddenly appeared before the old man again, and then he swung his saber again. Just like that, Yi Lingfeng had swung his saber almost 100 times in less than a breath of time. Every single swing of his forced the old man back, and the old man was being pushed further and further back by every single collision. He was completely suppressed. The countenances of everyone from White Deer Academy had turned pale. A long time passed before another huge explosion resounded, and then the old man moved almost 300 m back. This time, Yi Lingfeng didn't attack again. He just moved aside and said, "There's no enmity between us, so I won't kill you." As soon as Yi Lingfeng finished speaking, jet black clouds covered the sky, and then a huge eye appeared in the sky. The eye had locked onto the violet-robed old man. It was the eye of the Heaven Dao. The old man took a deep breath, and his gaze descended onto Yi Lingfeng as he said, "Good, very good." As soon as he spoke, a wisp of blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. Once he finished speaking, he gazed at Xiao Bieli and the others. "I must leave or the heaven's wrath will destroy the academy. While I'm leaving, the academy still has a chance to survive." As he spoke, he glanced at Yang Yi, who was engaged in fierce battle with Feng Qingyu, and then he glanced at a certain area in the sky. After that, he immediately vanished on the spot. Once the old man left, Yi Lingfeng relaxed his grip, and the saber in his grasp instantly transformed into spirit energy that dispersed into the surroundings. After that, he turned around to gaze at Mo Tian. "From this moment onwards, I don't owe your Mo clan anything." As soon as he finished speaking, he took a step forward and vanished on the spot. All the students of White Deer Academy had despair on their faces. At this moment, their spirit energy was exhausted. In other words, they didn't have the strength to fight anymore. So, how could they resist the experts of the Mo clan, Thousand Crane Sect, and the Law faction? Xiao Bieli's face was covered in despair as well, and his eyes were deathly still. Suddenly, someone cried out involuntarily, "The eye of the Heaven Dao hasn't left." Everyone looked up and noticed that the eye of the Heaven Dao was actually still in the sky, and it caused them to be stunned. The Emperor has left, so why hasn't the eye of the Heaven Dao left? Emotion and the others were stunned as well. Logically speaking, it should have left. Why is it still here? Suddenly, the eye of the Heaven Dao gazed at Yang Yi and Feng Qingyu. A moment later, a bolt of black divine lightning shot out from within it, and it descended towards Yang Yi and Feng Qingyu, who were in fierce battle. Everyone here was stunned once more by the sight of this. What's the eye of the Heaven Dao doing? Why is it attacking Yang Yi and Feng Qingyu? Feng Qingyu was stunned when the eye of the Heaven Dao locked onto her, and then her face became extremely unsightly, as if a pile of shit had been stuffed into her mouth. The reason Feng Qingyu had an unsightly expression on her face was because she noticed that the eye of the Heaven Dao had locked on to her. The black bolt of divine lightning wasn't a huge threat to her. After all, she was a quasi-emperor. But she didn't understand why the eye of the Heaven Dao attacked her. She felt that she'd never done anything that defied the heavens. Feng Qingyu didn't have the time to think. She immediately waved her hand about, and the multicolored ribbon in her grasp shot up into the sky towards the bolt of divine lightning. Yang Yi, who was about to attack, had instantly stopped when he saw her attack the divine lightning, and he gazed at Feng Qingyu with disbelief. He naturally knew why the eye of the Heaven Dao hadn't left. Wasn't it obvious? It was definitely because the eye of the Heaven Dao had sensed his aura. He could be said to be old enemies with the Heaven Dao in the radiant dimension, so how could it possibly just leave upon noticing his presence? But he hadn't expected that Feng Qingyu would actually attack the divine lightning. Is she actually that kind to help me stop the divine lightning? But it didn't take long for Yang Yi to figure it out. Feng Qingyu was in combat with him, and they were extremely close. So, when the eye of the Heaven Dao targeted him, it had definitely unconsciously included Feng Qingyu as well. After that, Feng Qingyu would have thought that the eye of the Heaven Dao was targeting her. After all, how could anyone consider that the eye of the Heaven Dao would target a half-saint? A slight smile arose on the corners of Yang Ye's mouth when he thought up to this point, and he moved backwards slightly. However, he didn't go too far or seize the opportunity to launch a surprise attack, because it wasn't a suitable moment. Even though Feng Qingyu was fighting against the eye of the Heaven Dao, Yang Yi knew that she was vigilant against him at all times. It wasn't just Feng Qingyu, Emotion and the others' aura were locked onto him as well, and they would definitely attack him if he tried to attack Feng Qingyu. In any case, a surprise attack wouldn't work. So, he just moved aside and watched Feng Qingyu fight the eye of the Heaven Dao in single combat. Bang! The black bolt of divine lightning was obliterated by a single attack from Feng Qingyu. Meanwhile, the eye of the Heaven Dao seemed to be furious, and it directly locked onto Feng Qingyu before another bolt of black divine lightning shot out from it. This time, the divine lightning was more than 5 times larger than before, and it was many times stronger as well. Feng Qingyu's pupils constricted slightly at the sight of this, and her eyes were filled with shock and bewilderment. What's wrong with the eye of the Heaven Dao? It wasn't just her. Everyone else in the surroundings was looking at the eye of the Heaven Dao with bewilderment. However, it didn't take long for them to gaze at Feng Qingyu, and even Emotion's group was looking at her. What crimes has she committed to actually make the eye of the Heaven Dao target her? That was what everyone, including Emotion's group, thought. Because the eye of the Heaven Dao usually didn't target someone for no reason. At the very least, they'd never heard of the eye of the Heaven Dao targeting someone for no reason. Emotion and the others had quite unsightly expressions on their faces. Because the eye of the Heaven Dao was targeting Feng Qingyu, so how could they crush White Deer Academy now? Of course, they could disregard Feng Qingyu. However, if the eye of the Heaven Dao couldn't kill Feng Qingyu, then the situation would definitely grow even more severe. At that time, the entire White Deer dimension would be affected. The thing which he was worried about the most was that if attacking White Deer Academy would draw the attention of the eye of the Heaven Dao, at that time they would truly be in trouble. Because of the actions of the eye of the Heaven Dao, the irreconcilable battle between them had suddenly stopped. Both sides were looking at Feng Qingyu and the eye of the Heaven Dao instead. No one dared to attack until the eye of the Heaven Dao left. Bang! 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 They watched as Feng Qingyu obliterated numerous bolts of black divine lightning in succession. Meanwhile, Feng Qingyu's expression grew more and more unsightly, because even until now, she still didn't know why the eye of the Heaven Dao was targeting her. Meanwhile, Emotion couldn't help but ask, Sect Master Feng, what exactly have you done to actually make the eye of the Heaven Dao target you? Feng Qingyu spoke with a gloomy expression on her face. I'd like to know the answer to that as well. Have you really not done anything that would incur heaven's wrath? Emotion was quite doubtful. Indeed, if Feng Qingyu hadn't done anything which defied the heavens, then how could the eye of the Heaven Dao have possibly targeted her? After all, the eye of the Heaven Dao wasn't one to attack for no reason, because the radiant dimension would have fallen into chaos if the eye of the Heaven Dao acted as it pleased. Feng Qingyu was furious. It doesn't matter whether you believe me or not. Emotion's face fell. He glanced at the surroundings, and then he pondered deeply for a moment before he said, Sect Master Feng, can you lead the eye of the Heaven Dao away? Presently, the army in White Deer City was weak. Thus, so long as the eye of the Heaven Dao left, then they wouldn't have to use much strength to crush White Deer Academy. Xianxia's eyes narrowed slightly when he heard Emotion, because if Feng Qingyu left, then he felt that the eye of the Heaven Dao would definitely abandon her and target him. He was very confident in that outcome, because Feng Qingyu could only be considered to have infuriated the eye of the Heaven Dao. But he was a sinner of this dimension. No one knew about it because of the black scarf that lady had given him, but he was certain that the eye of the Heaven Dao was definitely aware. Or perhaps, his presence made the eye of the Heaven Dao feel extremely displeased. Feng Qingyu pondered deeply for an instant, and then she nodded. Even though she was really annoyed, she knew that she had to consider the overall situation here. Moreover, her desire for White Deer Academy's destruction was greater than Emotion. Feng Qingyu didn't hesitate a moment longer, and she shot towards the distance. Meanwhile, Xianxia's figure suddenly shot off behind her. After all, the eye of the Heaven Dao would definitely abandon her if he didn't go with her. However, Li Leiguai suddenly obstructed Xianxia's path and said, Yang Yi, you should just be good and stay here. They wouldn't naturally not allow Yang Yi to leave. Regardless of whether it was the Mo clan, the Law faction, or the Thousand Crane sect, they had another main objective besides destroying White Deer Academy, and it was to kill Yang Yi. Yang Yi glanced at Li Leiguai and then he shrugged. Then I'll stay here. Li Leiguai laughed coldly. Yang Yi, have you thought about how you intend to let it end? If you haven't, then allow me. Don't worry. I've thought of a few thousand ways to kill you, and it'll definitely satisfy you. Yang Yi wasn't interested in wasting his breath on Li Leiguai. He just glanced at the surroundings and tightened his grip on the ancient sheath. Meanwhile, Feng Qingyu had arrived over 20 kilometers away, and then Eye of the Heaven Dao pursued her there. Emotion and the others heaved slight sighs of relief when they saw it leave with her. But they were just about to attack when they noticed to their astonishment that the Eye of the Heaven Dao had suddenly come back. It had come back. Everyone here was stunned. Even Feng Qingyu was stunned. What exactly is it doing? Emotion and the others here gazed at the Eye of the Heaven Dao as well. What exactly is it trying to do? Or perhaps it has really gone mad and is doing as it pleases. Meanwhile, the Eye of the Heaven Dao suddenly gazed at Yang Yi and Li Leiguai. Everyone here was stunned again when they witnessed this scene. Is it going to target Li Leiguai now? Li Leiguai. Li Leiguai was quite stunned as well. The Eye of the Heaven Dao is actually targeting me? Emotion's brows were pressed tightly together, and he glanced at Li Leiguai with bewilderment. Did that bastard do something that defied the heavens as well? No one had considered that the Eye of the Heaven Dao was targeting Yang Yi. Why? Because Yang Yi was only a half-saint. No one felt that it would target a half-saint. Normally, only existences at the saint realm or quasi-emperors would draw the attention of the Eye of the Heaven Dao, because only such experts were a threat to it. As for those below the saint realm, wouldn't the Eye of the Heaven Dao be too weak if even half-saints were a threat to it? Because of Xianxia's cultivation, everyone here had unconsciously overlooked him. Bang! A bolt of pitch-black divine lightning suddenly shot out from the eye of the heaven Dao. As expected, it shot down straight at Yang Yi and Li Leiguai. This time, it was over 500 m thick, and a terrifying wave of pressure rained down alongside it. It was the pressure from the true might of the heavens and the earth. While it wasn't as strong as the aura of an emperor, it was still extremely terrifying. Li Leiguai's expression changed when he witnessed this scene, and he gazed at the eye of the heaven Dao and roared furiously, "What's wrong with you?" Even though he was cursing, he didn't dare act carelessly. He immediately slapped his palm upwards, and an energy palm flashed up and slammed against the divine lightning. Bang! The energy palm and divine lightning collided, and then a loud explosion resounded through the sky. However, only a moment passed before another bolt of lightning, which was even larger than the previous one, appeared in the sky. This time, its target was still Li Leiguai. Li Leiguai's expression grew extremely unsightly when he witnessed this scene. "Everyone, see that?" Suddenly, Yang Yi pointed at Li Leiguai and roared furiously, "See that? The Heaven Dao refuses to tolerate their attack on our White Deer Academy, and that's why heavenly wrath has descended to punish them." Everyone here was stunned, especially the members of White Deer Academy. They blinked their eyes as they gazed at the eye of the Heaven Dao. Do the heavens really refuse to tolerate their attack on our academy? Is the Heaven Dao here to help us? Even though many were still bewildered, even more believed it. So, some immediately roared, "The Heaven Dao doesn't allow it. Mo Clan, Thousand Crane Sect, and the Law Faction. Your attack on our academy is in defiance of the heavens. Quickly surrender yourselves. Defiance of the heavens. Mo Clan, Thousand Crane Sect, Law Faction. Do you see that? Even the heavens can't bear to watch what all of you are doing. You're defying the heavens. You'll be obliterated if you don't surrender right now." Xiao Bieli gazed at the eye of the Heaven Dao as well, and there was a trace of bewilderment in his eyes. Has the eye of the Heaven Dao really come to help my academy? As for the experts from the Mo Clan, Thousand Crane Sect, and Law Faction, they exchanged glances with each other. Besides shock, there was a trace of fear in their eyes. After all, they didn't dare to act in defiance of the heavens. "Yang Yi, that's bullshit." Meanwhile, Emotion roared furiously, "Defiance of the heavens? How laughable. What do you think White Deer Academy is? Why would the Heaven Dao assist it? You think too highly of White Deer Academy." Yang Yi laughed coldly. "You don't believe it? Then how about I prove it? Go on. Prove it. If you can't prove it, then I'll kill you myself." Emotion spoke fiercely. He naturally didn't believe Yang Ye's nonsense. As far as he was concerned, everything Yang Yi said was bullshit. Yang Ye's figure flashed over to Emotion, and then he pointed at Emotion and spoke furiously. "He's the main culprit. Heavens, smite him." As soon as Yang Yi spoke, the eye of the Heaven Dao suddenly released another bolt of black divine lightning, and then the eyes of everyone in the surroundings opened wide. Because the bolt of divine lightning actually wasn't shot at Li Leiguai, and it was descending towards Emotion instead. Everyone here was at a loss for words. Emotion's eyes were opened wide as well, and even his mouth was opened wide while disbelief and a trace of bewilderment could be seen in his eyes. It wasn't just Emotion who had such a reaction. At this moment, all the experts from the Mo Clan, Thousand Crane Sect, and the Law Faction were looking at the eye of the Heaven Dao with disbelief. Are our actions really in defiance of the heavens? Is not tolerated by the heavens? At this moment, such thoughts which they felt were quite absurd had appeared in their minds. Why did they feel that it was quite absurd? Because what was White Deer Academy? It was nothing. So, how could the eye of the Heaven Dao step forward for it and even send down its wrath for White Deer Academy? It didn't make sense. It didn't make sense at all. If White Deer Academy was protected by the Heaven Dao, then would anyone in the Central Divine Prefecture dare to act against it? But how could that be possible? How could the eye of the Heaven Dao possibly protect White Deer Academy? What made White Deer Academy so special? All of them refused to believe that they were acting in defiance of the heavens, and they refused to believe that the Eye of the Heaven Dao would protect White Deer Academy. However, the facts of the situation were that the Eye of the Heaven Dao had actually attacked Emotion. Meanwhile, Yang Yi suddenly shot a glance at Xiao Bieli and the others. Xiao Bieli was slightly stunned, and then he immediately came to an understanding. He immediately ordered everyone from White Deer Academy to consume violet crystals and recover their profound energy. Even though they didn't have enough time, it was better than having no profound energy at all and being at the mercy of others. Yang Yi withdrew his gaze, and then he suddenly pointed at the experts from the Mo clan, Thousand Crane Sect, and Law Faction. He roared furiously, "See that? Your actions are in defiance of the heavens, and it isn't tolerated by the heavens. Now, if you quickly put down your weapons and surrender, then perhaps you'll still have a chance to survive. If you resist the Heaven Dao, then you should know what the consequences of that are, right?" He was naturally not foolish enough to think that just this would be enough to trick Emotion and the others. The important matter at hand was to try his best to delay them and buy time for White Deer Academy. Resist the Heaven Dao. Their expressions changed when they heard Yang Yi. Even though countless people throughout the spirit dimension were constantly shouting about defying the heavens, how many actually dared to do so? After all, if one acted in defiance of the heavens, then one didn't just have to face the Eye of the Heaven Dao, one had to face the Guardians of the Radiant Dimension. The Guardians, not to mention the Mo clan, even the Nether Pavilion, the Evil Faction, and the other extraordinary powers which remained in hiding didn't dare to rashly offend the Guardians of the Radiant Dimension. At this moment, fear had arisen in the hearts of many. Meanwhile, Emotion was fighting against the Eye of the Heaven Dao. But the expression on his face was just like the expression Feng Qingyu and Li Leiguai had earlier. His face was covered in disbelief. Extreme disbelief. Why would the Eye of the Heaven Dao target me? Why? Why would it? At this moment, Emotion and the others on his side weren't able to figure it out. Kill! Suddenly, Yang Yi issued a command in his heart, and the sword servants at the high rank of the Saint Realm immediately charged at the enemy, while Yang Yi followed closely behind Emotion. In Yang Ye's opinion, this moment was the best moment to act. Because the morale of the Mo clan, the Thousand Crane Sect, and the Law Faction's experts were at rock bottom, and they were completely muddled. So, attacking now would yield twice the results. As soon as Yang Yi launched the attack, Zinan and the others who were on the Imperial Cloud Shuttle immediately attacked as well. However, they didn't charge into the city, and they utilized the formations on the Imperial Cloud Shuttle instead. Beam after beam shot out from the Cloud Shuttle towards the experts of the Mo clan, Thousand Crane Sect, and Law Faction that were attacking the city. The experts of the Academy didn't stand by idly as well, and those who could still fight immediately attacked as well. The battle erupted once more. Perhaps it was because of the Eye of the Heaven Dao, but the imposing aura of the absolutely weaker side, White Deer Academy, was actually much stronger than the aura emanated by the forces from the Thousand Crane Sect, Mo clan, and Law Faction. At this moment, an endless will to fight surged within their hearts, because the Eye of the Heaven Dao was on their side, and the experts of the Mo clan, Law Faction, and Thousand Crane Sect were acting in defiance of the heavens' will. So, White Deer Academy was upholding justice on behalf of the heavens by killing them. Uphold justice for the heavens! Countless students roared in unison. The morale of the experts from the Mo clan and the other powers immediately weakened further when they heard those words. As far as they were concerned, the Eye of the Heaven Dao in the sky was here to kill them. So, not only was their aura weaker when they fought, they were worried and vigilant against the Eye of the Heaven Dao. Meanwhile, the quasi-emperors of the Mo clan intended to join the battle. But Yang Yi suddenly appeared before one of them, and then he pointed at that quasi-emperor. "He's one of the accomplices. Smite him!" That quasi-emperor was slightly shocked. A moment later, a bolt of pitch-black divine lightning descended towards him and Yang Yi. Even with his level of mental strength, he couldn't help but be horrified when he witnessed this scene, and there was a trace of bewilderment in his eyes as he gazed at the descending divine lightning. Are we really acting in defiance of the heavens? Even though he was bewildered, he wouldn't just stand there like a fool and wait for death to arrive. So he attacked decisively. When he saw the quasi-emperor attack and offend the eye of the heaven Tao, Yang Yi paid no further attention to that quasi-emperor. He ran over to another quasi-emperor instead, and then he pointed at that quasi-emperor. This fellow is an accomplice as well. Quickly smite him. Fucking smite him to death. As soon as Yang Yi finished speaking, another bolt of pitch-black divine lightning descended. At this moment, the eyes of many students from White Deer Academy were filled with admiration as they gazed at Yang Yi. After all, the eye of the heaven Tao struck anyone who Yang Yi pointed at. That was absolutely awe-inspiring. Yang Yi was absolutely striking right now, because wherever he went and whoever he pointed at, the eye of the heaven Tao would strike that person. So, the quasi-emperors here were quite afraid of him. Of course, they were even more bewildered about why the eye of the heaven Tao struck anyone that Yang Yi pointed at. The slaughter was still going on in the surroundings. Yang Yi had practically kept all the quasi-emperors busy on his own. At this moment, he was constantly running around between the quasi-emperors. Moreover, the eye of the heaven Tao seemed to have grown furious, and the divine lightning it shot down was growing thicker and quicker. So, the area around Yang Yi and those quasi-emperors was practically filled with lightning. In the end, the eye of the heaven Tao was practically attacking everyone in that area. Emotion and the others were being kept busy by the eye of the heaven Tao because of Yang Yi. As for the experts from the Mo clan, Law faction, and the Thousand Crane sect, they were suffering heavy losses from the attacks from beam cannons on the Imperial Cloud Shuttle. So, a strange scene had appeared here. It was clearly White Deer Academy's forces that were weak and on the verge of defeat, but they were completely suppressing the experts of the Mo clan, Law faction, and Thousand Crane sect. Moreover, they grew stronger and excited as the battle progressed. It was like the experts from the Mo clan, Thousand Crane sect, and Law faction were the army that was weak and on the verge of defeat instead. Kill Yang Yi first. Meanwhile, Emotion's furious voice suddenly resounded. He was already feeling extremely aggrieved by the fact that the eye of the heaven Tao was targeting him, yet he had also had to watch Yang Yi move about freely. The most aggrieving part was that the eye of the heaven Tao struck anyone that Yang Yi pointed at. Even though he didn't understand why, he knew that he had to get rid of Yang Yi, because Yang Yi was acting too haughtily. As soon as they heard Emotion, the experts of the Mo clan didn't show a trace of hesitation. They immediately destroyed the divine lightning that was descending towards them, and then they attacked Yang Yi right away. Yang Ye's expression changed at the sight of this. He couldn't resist the joint forces of 8 quasi-emperors, but he couldn't run as well, because he would be exposed as soon as he did that. After all, the eye of the heaven Tao would definitely follow him. So, he could only go head-on against them. But how could he go head-on against 8 quasi-emperors? Right when Yang Yi was about to utilize stellar energy to go head-on against them, Xiao Bieli suddenly appeared in front of Yang Yi. Emotion and the others' expressions instantly changed when they saw Xiao Bieli, and they immediately stopped. If they were to fight a quasi-emperor now, then it wouldn't just be black divine lightning but violet divine lightning that descended towards them. Once violet divine lightning descended, then they would all be finished. Fighting a quasi-emperor wouldn't be a problem at any other time, but the eye of the heaven Tao was right above them now. Moreover, it seemed like it had gone mad, so they didn't dare risk it because it might just go crazy and send down a rain of violet divine lightning. After all, even emperors couldn't resist violet divine lightning. Bang! 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 Pitch-black divine lightning was descending incessantly from the sky, and endless pressure of the heavens and the earth was raining down as well. The entire White Deer dimension was trembling before it. At this moment, countless powers and experts throughout the Central Divine Prefecture were watching White Deer dimension. They were curious. All of them were curious about why the eye of the heaven Tao was there and why it was attacking Emotion's group. As for the experts of the Mo clan, Thousand Crane sect, and Law faction, they grew even more aggrieved. Because even until now, they still didn't know how exactly they'd offended the eye of the heaven Tao. Fools! Suddenly, a furious shout resounded in the sky, and then a hand which blotted out the sky swept through the air. In next to no time, all the descending black divine lightning were obliterated. In next to no time, a middle-aged man in a dark golden robe had appeared in the sky. Patriarch, Emotion and the other experts of the Emo clan were shocked when they saw the middle-aged man, and then they hurriedly bowed to him. Even Emotion was no exception. As for Xiaobieli, his face was unsightly. Emo Qingfeng, the Emo clan's patriarch. Emo Qingfeng's gaze descended onto Yang Yi, and then he said, "Everyone retreat." How could the experts of the Emo clan dare to disobey him? So they immediately moved aside. Yang Yi intended to go after them, but Emo Qingfeng suddenly stretched out his hand and clawed at Yang Yi. The space around Yang Yi instantly started to compact upon itself in layers, and it trapped Yang Yi there. Meanwhile, Emo Qingfeng's figure flashed over to the side. Rumble! Countless bolts of divine lightning rained down from above. This time, everyone was stunned on the spot again, because those bolts of pitch-black divine lightning were descending towards Yang Yi. The eye of the Heaven Tao is targeting Yang Yi. At this moment, everyone finally came to an understanding. Pooh! Pooh! After they understood what had happened, Emotion and the other quasi-emperors were instantly infuriated to the point of spitting out a few mouthfuls of blood.